So welcome to my YouTube channel. That's what we call The Good Life. Today I'm going to take you for a tour around my home garden, and also we're going to pop up the allotment as well. So if you've not already subscribed to my channel, you know what I'm going to say. If you could please do so, because you'll get lots of helpful hints and tips all throughout the year from my home garden, my allotment, and also from time to time my home kitchen. Well, we've had lots of change in my home garden over the last few weeks since you last saw it. I think I said to you, obviously we lost our chickens, so we're temporarily without chickens, so we decided to have a little bit of a rejig. So we've started that. It is by no means finished, so if you're worried that you're not ready for the growing season, then truth be told, neither am I, but it will all come good, I promise. I will definitely have lots and lots of lovely crops. Now obviously this was where the chickens were, so we've obviously cleared all that out. It was a lot of hard work. We hadn't realised quite how much concrete and bricks we'd put into the ground to keep the foxes out. Although the foxes never got in underground, they got in round the side, but never mind. We did our best and it worked for many years. So what I've done is I had my strawberries in pots, and that wasn't really working very well for me. If I'm honest, I prefer planting straight into the ground, so I planted all my strawberries along here. At some point I'll cover them when they start to fruit, because I know the birds will try and get them before I can. I've also put a few peas and broad beans out, nothing too special, just a few that I'd overwintered that had managed to last the really heavy snow that we had at the end of last year. So I put them out anyway because they'll produce a little bit for me. As you can see behind me is the new greenhouse. Now it's up, but I still, well, when I say I still have a few things to do. As a family, and mainly my husband and son have a few things to do. We still need to bolt it down, and we've got an automatic window that's going to go in, which we've not done yet, and inside it's all still pretty bare. I've not got anything planted in there as yet. It is, as you can see, with nuts and bolts all over the floor. It's very much a work in progress, but over the next few weeks we will definitely have that done. So as we move over, as you can see, it's a little bit like a building site where we had to move a few things back, so we've got quite a bit of tidying up today. I've got the raised bed just here, which I have dug over and put a little bit of manure over, because obviously we had to dig a bit out to do the greenhouse. Obviously that's looking a little bit untidy, but that will all come good. I've got some railway sleepers there, so we're going to create a raised bed on this bottom bit, and when we do get the chickens again, I'm thinking of probably having them around here, this area-ish, but I haven't exactly decided yet. As we move over, I've got a Subpod, which I'm really still enjoying, and the really nice thing is my herbs seem to have fared all the frost, so I don't know whether it creates a little bit of heat or something, but I never really get parsley that sees it through. It normally dies off at some point. And it's been good all the time, as have my chives, and everything's really growing back quite early. Even my coriander, which coriander never generally lasts that long. The only thing I have completely lost is the basil, and the frost did completely get that. The only thing I've got to do with this is where I initially did it, the level has dropped a little bit with the earth, so I'm going to have to earth that up a little bit. So that's a job for me to do. The Subpod's a really handy way. I have obviously got my big composters over the allotment, but just for at home, for composting just my normal normal little bits that I have at home, this is absolutely perfect. You know, any bits from the kitchen, that kind of thing, any small weeds, I put them in here. I will put a link in the description if you're thinking of getting a Subpod, because it's quite a handy thing to have, and you can also use it as a seat as well, and it's kind of quite pleasing to the eye, and I'm finding it particularly useful for popping all my herbs, and I might pop some lettuces and things in there in and around as well, as the growing season progresses. So like I said, I will put a link in the description, and there is a discount code in there, so you can get a discount. So if you are thinking of getting one, if you use my link with the discount code, then you'll get it a little bit cheaper, and everyone wants to save money, don't they, right? So let's move round and we can take a look at my seedlings. So at the moment, they're still in my conservatory because I've not finished my greenhouse, and if I'm a little bit honest, we've had some quite frosty nights over the last few nights. I'm still a little bit worried about putting it in there. So as much as I want to get stuff in my greenhouse, I've not got quite that far yet. So at the moment, my seedlings are all in here, and they're all coming along really, really well as well. So I've got a selection of tomatoes that I've potted on, 2 lots of tomatoes. I've got kale, I've got bright lights chard, I've got some marigolds, I've got some more tomatoes there on the go. Some more chard, some more kale, a few statice which aren't doing very well, not many germinated, which is a bit of a pain, but it happens. More marigolds. These are just microgreens which I've just been eating straight away. And these are some lettuces. They look a little bit leggy, but I'll just bear with. You never know, they might come good. If not, worst case scenario, I'll just have to start a few more off. And I've got some leeks here as well. They're coming on quite nicely too. I've got another lot of potatoes to go out, which I will put out in the next few weeks. They're my main crop Picasso, so I'm in no real rush. My other potatoes are already out, and I will be putting some dahlias out when the frost starts to ease off a little bit. So that's the home garden, and now let's head up to the allotment. So we're now up at the allotment, and I'm going to take a little tour around just to see how everything's doing. Now, I don't know if you remember that we put something over some of our rhubarb to try and force it on to see what difference it would make. Now, it worked so well that when I came over this morning, the cover had actually popped off. So it had grown up so much that this that was on top of it had taken itself off. So it definitely worked. So this is the bit that was covered, and as you can see, the stems are a lot paler, which normally signifies they'll be a lot sweeter. So if you look at a normal stem that wasn't covered, that's the difference. Much smaller, much darker. These are much bigger, longer and pinker. So the reason the leaves are a little bit shriveled is because the top was touching the top of it, so that's why that's the way it is. Some people, when they force their rhubarb, they have an open one, but I only had that and it's definitely done the job. So that's a definite success. I'm already eating my rhubarb, so I don't know about anyone else, but I've got a nice lot there, which will be perfect for making some jam with. So as we move down, my pear tree, look at all the lovely buds, and these almost seem to have appeared in the last week. You know, from tiny, tiny little buds to really, really starting to fill out. So you can tell spring is on its way. We mustn't be fooled too much because we've still been getting some frosts here in Kent. But things are definitely moving forward. Even the birds, I'm hearing the birds a lot more, which is really lovely. So the raspberries are starting to sprout as well. In particular, the ones in here. I do still need to sort this out, so like I said before, I'm not completely sorted out. Where the frame came down, we need to tidy this up. So look, there we go, lots of lovely shoots coming on these raspberries there. They look absolutely lovely, so it's nice to see everything coming along. Little tiny buds there on the cherry tree, not quite so formed. So, and I think the apple tree is very similar. We've got some buds on that, but not quite anywhere near as far as the pear tree seems to be quite a way ahead. But this one's got some little buds on it as well, hasn't it? If you look from a distance, you think it's just twigs, but if you start to look, things are really starting to happen. And the artichokes are really starting to fill out as well. They're doing really, really well, which is absolutely awesome. So if we move round and see what else is happening on the allotment. We've got the blackberries here. Again, same thing, we're getting lots of lovely shoots coming on there, which looks absolutely lovely. So nice to see things coming along. And the gooseberries as well. One seems to be filling out more than the other. You can see the tiny little, where the blossoms will be, and the gooseberries will form just there. So just little tiny buds there. So that's looking really good. So as we move down, I've got some of my potatoes in. I put 2 rows in actually. And like I said when I did the video, when I dug the second row in, I mounded up the first row a little bit. I've got 1 more row to put in, and I'll do exactly the same now. When I dig that row, I'll then mound that row. So it kind of just starts the process rather than having to do it all in one go. All this section is still covered because obviously we haven't got anything in the ground here. I've been picking my Brussels and my purple sprouting. My purple sprouting is doing really well now. And the Brussels are not brilliant, so I've just been picking them small. And they might be tiny, but honestly they taste just as good. And I'm hardly having to peel anything off them. So even though they're tiny, they're pretty much perfect just to cook as they are. I did a little bit of weeding, so I don't know if anyone remembers last time when I came up here. I had where my chard had been and the frost had virtually killed it off. Well, it had killed it off and it was quite weedy. So I came up and I've given that a dig and a weed. And also my overwintering onions and my garlic as well, I weeded that. So it was one of those jobs that we all have them, and I've been putting it off and putting it off. and as soon as it starts to warm up, the weeds just get bad really, really quickly. And we're about to go away, and I didn't want to come back off holiday knowing that it was probably going to be 2 or 3 times as bad, and I would have wished that I'd have done it before I went away. So I did one lot one day and one lot another day. I think I've said before, I don't do massive amounts in a day. I come up here, I do an hour or so, and then I go, and then I come up another day to spread it a little bit. So all my spring onions are looking really good here. So most of them look like they've started to sprout. I had this covered to stop the birds from attacking them, and generally speaking, once they've rooted in and they start to sprout, they're okay because the birds can't pull them out. Look, they're pretty tough in there. It's when you first put them in and they can easily be lifted out by the birds. And exactly the same here. These have all started to shoot as well. So I will be lifting, not all of them are shooting, so I might leave that on just for a little bit longer. But when I get back from my holiday, then I will definitely take that off, and then I'll just let them grow like those ones are. So another little section here, which is all covered. So it's, yeah, I think like I said before, I leave it covered until I'm about to plant it, because as soon as you lift it, the weeds will start growing just so incredibly quickly, and you're going to have wished that you'd left it down until you were ready. So as we move round, we're nearly done actually, so hope you've enjoyed it so far. If we just move up to the allotment, the top bit here, I've got the black currants, so they're starting to sprout as well, so they're looking really lovely. There we go, just starting to put little buds on and shoot the leaves off there, so both of those there. So I've got a little section over here that I'm trying to do a no dig bit, mainly purely because, if I'm honest, I couldn't be bothered to sort it out, so I need to cover that with something. So I put some cardboard down, I've temporarily put some bricks on it, but I do need to get some manure to cover that up, which is one of those jobs that I still haven't done, but I've started. So I hope you've enjoyed the tour of the allotment. I'd love to know what you're up to at the moment, any exciting new projects you've got on, and if you've got any questions or queries, then of course please put them in the comments.